thing rolling downhill and lumbering under its own weight. It's episode 403 of the Matt Murphy program on these airwaves. It is Monday, August 21st. As you might know, it's 2023. You can find us on a variety of different platforms. Let's go over those real quick. You can go to the radio side of things on 99.7 FM on your FM dial all throughout Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Northern Alabama. You can also find us on a variety of streaming platforms to be found at 997WTN.com. And then there's the television side of things. Who knows why you want to do it, but if you do want to do it, hello. How are you? YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. On the TV side, you can join in on the conversation on the F&M Bank chat line right there, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Twitch. If you make a comment on one of those platforms, it feeds directly to the F&M Bank chat line, and I will see it, or someone will see it. Mason is behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as possible in the absence of Bell K. Hello, Mason.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I like that. That's a little homage to Guns N' Roses. Is
yes,
that what
sir,
you're doing
it is.
There? Yeah, what does it say? Drums and what?
Drums and Roses.
Okay, what is that? What is that? What is that?
The big MC in the middle stands for Music City.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's, I don't know if you know what drum corps is. It's a marching band for professionals. And my brother just did his age out year this past season. And I went and saw him in Indianapolis, and this is one of the shirts they were selling. I thought it was nice and fitting, so I thought I'd snatch that up. I like drums. I like Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, I like all of those things.
Yeah, it's all fun.
I was checking out a Guns N' Roses vintage tee over the weekend as I was searching for something for Bell K for his birthday. I'm glad I didn't get it for him because he's not here.
Yeah, decided to sleep in a little bit.
Yeah, it's all good. But I found a pretty cool shop downtown. I think it's I'll give him a plug. I don't mind.
Yeah, do
It's
it. Go
called
for
Music City Vintage.
it. Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's over, oh gosh.
I would say it's on 31, but I know that's not what you're supposed to say. Is that Gallatin Pike? What is that?
It's over there in that same area.
You go that way, and then there you are.
Yeah.
It's got the big mural on the side of the thing with the lady with the boob. Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually have some cool stuff. I talked to the owners, and I asked them how long they've been there. They said about 5 years. They've got some mighty fine
They've
things.
got some cool stuff over there, especially like for music fans. If you're looking for like album tees, they've got a good couple ones.
Anyway, I was looking around. I was trying to find, guess what? No ABBA T-shirts to be found in the Music City. And I feel comfortable saying that because I don't believe that Bell's listening to the show right now.
I don't either.
But I did get him a present, do you want it since he's not here?
If you're offering.
I mean, it's his birthday.
Yeah.
And he
but
decided
I like
to take the day off.
I like gifts. I won't say no to gifts.
When's your birthday?
Not till January.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll give you his birthday gift today. And then come January, he can have yours.
Yeah. Depends. What would you get me? You don't know me that well, do you?
I can't tell you what I would get you because that's actually what I got Bell. And so.
Fair enough.
And so I'm very excited for him to open his card. I told you what the card said.
You did. It's amazing. I love it.
Pretty good. Anyway, happy birthday, Bell, wherever you might be. Bell K celebrating his, 20th, 39th birthday or whatever it is. We have a lot to do today, as you might expect, not the least of which is the start of the Tennessee special session. The governor has the opportunity to call a special session under what he considers to be extraordinary circumstances, and he has done so. I disagree with some conservative organizations that believe the right thing to do is to gavel in, gavel out, because it would be unconstitutional to do anything otherwise. I do not believe that we necessarily need a special session. I just want to go over where I'm on the record on this, because there's been a lot of mischaracterization as to what I said on Friday and where I'm at on the special and the conspiracies that are being floated about it. So the governor makes the call. The General Assembly will spend, somewhere in the neighborhood of $350,000, depending on the number of days that they stay in Nashville. $350,000, $400,000, whatever it might be. What's $50,000 amongst friends in the special session on what the governor calls public safety. I made a decision, as many guests as we could have had today on this subject, to include some regulars that you've heard on the show in the past: Cameron Sexton, Jack Johnson, Scott Sapicki, William Lamberth, amongst others. I feel it's more important that we get your thoughts on what's going to happen this week, without interference from any politician, and certainly without any interference from the host. from the host. You heard me correctly. I am interested in your calls and text as to whether or not you believe anything good can come from the special session. I have a list of bills that have been presented so far. It is not a complete list because there are a lot of bills that have been presented, many of which will be dumped because they do not meet the call. And not to get too technical with you, but I can describe what that means in terms of the governor makes the call. He says, hey, we're coming into special session, and this is the reason that I want you to be there. And he hands that out to the General Assembly. And anything outside of the call, the clerk of the House or the clerk of the Senate, they gather bills as they are filed, and they read the bills, and they determine whether or not the bill filed meets the call of the General Assembly's special session or extraordinary session. And so there are a lot of bills that have been filed, and we'll grab a few pertinent ones and relate them to you as the hour goes on, as the day goes on. But I'm much more curious where you are on the matter now that we've come to I understand you, because I don't see one either. Here's the timeline as I analyze it. The Covenant school shooting occurred in March. And obviously, it left those of us in Nashville and the state of Tennessee flabbergasted, horrified, and flat-footed. And your immediate desire is to make sense out of the senseless. You cannot make sense out of the senseless. And by definition, shooting people in cold blood, particularly young children, is a senseless and mentally evil act. It is impossible for us to understand it because we are not mentally evil. But we try. We try our best. And in doing so, we try to figure out if there's anything under the Constitution and under the law that we can do about it. Is there anything that we could have done? Is there any ability to use hindsight to prevent future tragedy? And unlike some, I believe that's where the governor's heart was when he mentioned an order of protection law. He did so in April. I'm just trying to reset the timeline for everyone. I know many of you already know this, and you're invited to be a part of the conversation and give your thoughts on this thing. 615-737-9986 is the number. It's the super text line, 615-737-WWTN. So you have the tragedy of Covenant. We mourn our loss. We bury our dead. And the governor comes out in the aftermath of that and wonders aloud if there's anything that we could possibly do to identify mentally ill people and to identify those individuals who are a clear and present danger to themselves and to others prior to them committing an act of violence against society. I do believe, unlike many of you, some of you, that the governor's heart was in the right place in that aftermath. Perhaps he was acting in an emotional fashion, but I believe that. And I also believe that in the ensuing months since the time that he made that announcement of his intention for a special session and today, that the governor of the state of Tennessee has heard you loud and clear. And the legislature, the General Assembly, they have heard you loud and clear. If there's anything that you can count on, it's that a politician, regardless of political party, they want to do those things in the best interest of getting reelected during the next election cycle. I promise you that. The first thing a politician thinks about after they get elected is what? I bet Mason knows the answer to this question. Mason, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the first thing a politician thinks about after they get elected?
Where's my seat?
That's a good answer. The one I was looking for, the one that would have gotten you the gold bell, is getting reelected. The first thing a politician thinks about when they get elected is getting reelected. And I promise you, despite what these liberals on their bus tours would have anyone believe, the state of Tennessee is ruby red, especially when it comes to our belief that we have the ultimate desire to keep and bear arms and we have a right to defend ourselves in the event that we have our rights attacked or we feel that ourselves or our property or our people, our rights are under assault. And I believe that the governor's heard you, and I believe the General Assembly's heard you. Now, you may call it stubbornness. I can understand why you would say that. Or a genuine desire to broaden the call out and to do something about public safety with regard to crime in our inner cities. Do we not want to do something about crime in Memphis and crime in Nashville? And is this not an opportunity? I'm trying to look on the positive side, not on the negative. So I do not believe that any red flag law or any order of protection. And by the way, if any of this comes up, I'm going to be the first person to talk with you about it. I'm going to be the first person to fight with you against it. Simply because I do not believe in predetermining or in a precognitive fashion attempting to ascertain what you are going to do in denying you your rights. Secondarily, I don't believe red flag laws work. I look at the empirical data and I say, no, they don't. At the same time, when we have these conversations about mass shootings or violence in general, gun violence in particular, for those of us who believe that it is the human heart and the human mind and not the gun itself that commits the murder, prior to you taking an action that would necessitate the taking of your rights away. You know, the reason felons in prison are not allowed to own guns is not because the Second Amendment of the Constitution prevents it. It's because they have committed violations against the rights of others that precludes their continued rights to be free or to keep and carry or any number of other rights that they no longer have while in prison. So I don't believe that this is a thing that we should be doing. But what it ultimately is an attempt to do is to determine whether someone is mentally ill to the point that they should not be able to have guns. The reality is that we live in an open society that believes in individual liberty so much that we do not believe in precluding individual liberties from one person because of a predetermined belief that they're going to commit a future act of violence. We don't believe that in America. And it's why I don't believe an order of protection law will pass in the state of Tennessee. But this is that we're attacking mental health. My point has always been that if you determine that someone is such a danger to themselves that you're willing to take Second Amendment rights, you need to be willing to take away all of their rights, at least until such time they're no longer a danger to people. Now, I do believe that there's some good that could come of this special session that will not. I believe we need to look into the pharmaceutical industry as a whole, and I don't think that you can just do that in Tennessee. I think we need to have a national inquiry. You talk about special prosecutions or a special counsel in Washington, D.C., you got the special counsel looking into the pharmaceutical industry and looking into how prescribed all across America, particularly to our younger generations, are affecting long-term those younger generations in terms of their memories. I do think there are several good pieces of legislation that will come of this, and we'll talk about that as well. So I'm curious, do you believe that this should be just a go and get out type of deal, or do you think that there is some good that can come of the special session, or do you care? 615-737-9986. It's 1221 on Super Talk 99.7 again. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. I want to talk to you about the world-famous Glock store located right here in Nashville, Tennessee. You know, Lenny McGill and I have had this conversation in the past. He could have gone anywhere when he relocated the Glock store from California. He looked all over the United States of America and found his location in Nashville, and we are the better for it. They have a friendly staff of trained individuals that are ready to help you regardless of the level of expertise. The gun that's right for you, whether you're looking for a handgun or a long gun, they've got them at the world famous Glock store, 35 square feet. They specialize, of course, in Glock handguns, as you might expect, with the name like the Glock store. They have gunsmiths on site every day. Firearms beyond the Glocks, accessories, ammos, and performance parts, and they'll even put on a part while you wait, and they manufacture most of their parts right on site. It's an incredible operation at the world famous Glock store, and I've even mentioned the like. In other words, you live your life not knocking them. It's as good as what the Glock store has. Lenny McGill came up with this concept years ago. And for the cost of a few range sessions, you can train every day with a world-famous Glock store instructor for a year. So go to shoot270.com or glockstore.com, or better yet, just off of Elm Hill Pike on Airlane Drive. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the world-famous Glock store. Hey, yo, I've examined the situation on YouTube. Several of you have noted that YouTube seems to be janky. Not so sure about Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch, but we're doing everything we can on the YouTube side of things.
Yeah, those other ones seem to be running pretty smooth right now,
Okay.
For the most part, but YouTube we're working on.
Yes, Turd Ferguson is currently up on the YouTube chat. He's very frustrated with the feed. Oh, you know who Turd Ferguson is?
I do know who Turd Ferguson is.
Turd Ferguson. Yeah. Turd Ferguson. Great. It's back when Saturday Night Live was good. Let's see. I've got some new information on the special counsel Weiss and his relationship with the Biden family. That's to come on the show today. Donald Trump has announced formally, he's confirmed that he will, in fact, skip at least the first GOP debate happening Wednesday. I think this is a mistake, not because Donald Trump needs to debate, not because we don't all understand who Donald Trump is. I think you're giving Joe Biden an opportunity to skip down the road, and we can't call him to task for it. Not that they wouldn't figure out a way to do that anyway, because if Joe Biden is the political nominee for the Democrats for the presidential campaign of 2024, which I'm on record as not saying I don't believe he's going to be able to answer that call, but if he does and is the nominee, he has no interest in debating, no interest in campaigning, really. So that's on the docket as well as we move forward. But first, I said no politicians today, just me and you, and especially leaning on you on a Monday on the phones. I want to know where you are mentally on the special session. You don't care? Are you of the belief that there are some conservative organizations that believe that this is all a conspiracy, stated publicly? There are conservatives in this state that believe that Governor Bill Lee, Jack Johnson, William Lamberth, Cameron Sexton, Randy McNally, and others are gathering together in conspiracy, attempting to head fake you to make you believe that they're not going to pass red flag laws and then pass red flag laws. I don't believe this for a second. We spoke on it Friday. These organizations, and look, I'm not trying to make enemies out of friends, so I don't feel compelled to go any further. I mean, put it this way. They're well within their rights to believe what they believe. But when the session is over and it doesn't happen, are they going to say, hey, we were wrong, or are they going to try to take credit for it? Which is what I think they're trying to do. So I don't buy into these conspiracies from the political right, just as I don't buy these extreme leftists who are being bussed in from out of state that claim to be from Tennessee and making all this ruckus down on the Legislative Plaza. But I'm more interested in if you think there's anything positive that can come out of the special session. Larry is first up in Clarksville. Hey, Larry, glad you called, my friend.
Hey, brother. First of all, it was great to meet you at the event. and thanks for taking my call.
Yes,
But
sir. Of course, and it was good to see you too, Larry. I'm glad I got to hug your neck. Did you get to hug Dan Mandis?
No, and but I'm also kind of glad I didn't have to put on red lipstick. So thanks for not bringing it.
I forgot the lipstick.
Well, and I'm never going to let you live that down. I missed the supposedly very controversial thing Friday because I was still in the hospital. But my phone has been blowing up all weekend. And at first, I was very against this special session. But, I do think there are some things we can do as far as mental health, as long as they don't, if you're going to take somebody's guns away, then you need to take their car away. You need, they need to be in an institution until they are deemed credible.
Yeah, and I struggle with that aspect of this, Larry, and I'll tell you why. And you keep listening on the radio, and I wish you the best of health, Larry, and you know what I'm talking about. So if I need to know what parameters we're putting on mental health when it comes to declaring someone mentally unable to live in open society. I am a fierce defender of individual liberty and individual freedom. I do think that there's a functional difference between someone just being kind of out there and someone being mentally insane. And typically we describe those who are mentally insane as a subset of people that might be a little wacky or different, but a subset of those people that have demonstrated a propensity to engage in violence against other people or themselves. And so we often talk about the willingness to incarcerate individuals, to confine them in a way that would get them help. Well, I need to know how that works. Because I promise you, as soon as you begin doing that, you'll have people that are abusing it for their own purposes, oftentimes political purposes. Hell, we already have mainstream liberals that are suggesting that Trump supporters should be locked up for being Trump supporters. Oh, no, it's out there. It's out there. But I do think that there is some good that can come from the special session. Unlike many of you, Randy writes in and says nothing will come of it. Let's see. Stephen writes in and says special session is a waste of tax dollars. It will accomplish nothing or stop the problem. 8014 says gavel in, gavel out. Save the taxpayers some money. And on and on and on it goes. I got a lot of them streaming in here from the super text line, 615-737-9986. More coming up. Your calls coming up, 1233 on Super Talk. All right, friends, so maybe you've gotten something wrong with your hip, your back, your knee, your neck, your elbow, whatever it might be. If it's something that moves on your person and you have issues with it, I encourage you to go to the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. located in Franklin. The Dr. Gill Center was the originator of spinal decompression. They were the first to bring it to Middle Tennessee, and I'm encouraging you to go and inquire more about this. Spinal decompression is quite simple, and they can do it in other places on your body as well. But it gives the ability for the body to heal, to get nutrition and hydration into those affected areas, reduce pain, swelling, and accelerate healing. That's what it's all about. So if it's back, neck, knee, hip, elbow, whatever it might be, it can be treated with no surgery, no downtime, no needles, and without the need for taking pain medication. That's what it's all about, right? Getting off that medication and getting back to life. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. Call today. I mentioned that I'm going in for my knee. I'm coming in this week for another round of session on my knee. 615-882-4838. 882-4838 for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. So the Bengals had Manic Monday. They had Walk Like an Egyptian. That's it, right?
Those are the only two that stand out in my mind.
Yeah, I think so. Still, the one video with the chick looking, anyway. 615-737-9986 is the telephone number if you'd like to be a part of this show, offering your thoughts, just your impressions on what will be an extraordinary session of the Tennessee legislature, gavelled in at 4 o'clock today. A lot of supporters and a lot of rabble-rousers are out and about in force on the Legislative Plaza. I intentionally chose not to have any guests today. We will sprinkle them throughout the week. I have no doubt. I mean, we talked with Governor Lee last week. We talked with Cameron Sexton last week. We talked with Jack Johnson, if not last week, week before. Randy McNally doesn't do these sorts of interviews, so no hope in talking to the lieutenant governor on the Senate side of things, but that's what we have Jack Johnson for. And a number of others who are attempting to pass some legislation that would make sense. For example, Representative Scott Sapicki has a bill that he is trying to get through the clerk's office that would require it would strongly encourage local communities to hire SROs if the funds are being made available to them to hire SROs. This is in direct response. Well, one, we called for it. Now, I don't know. I don't pretend that Sapicki did it because of me or because of this show, but we are of a like mind that if you provide the funding for SROs in elementary school, and then you do not go about the business of finding those SROs in elementary schools, maybe you need a little further nudging in order to protect our children in our elementary schools. The same Democrats that claim that we should do anything and everything to protect the children won't do the basics, like providing a police officer in our schools. Thank you to the many, many super texters who have let me know that there is one other. It's Eternal Flame.
It slips under the radar.
But duly noted, friends. And then this one randomly from 4026. I hated the Bengals, loved Bananarama. Okay. Look, that's why God gave us elbows. Like opinions, everybody's got a couple. Stephen wants to talk about mental health in the state of Tennessee. Stephen, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, sir. Let me just start out by saying you are a great, blessed think tank for our great state and for anybody else who's tuned in and listened to anything that you've had to say, and I really appreciate it. And they probably have took a lot of tips and pointers from you, believe it or not. So don't cut yourself down too low there, man. Have more faith in yourself there. And, the whole thing about this special sessions deal, I think – it's just something. It's like, it's something, right? But because of the Democratic clown party that we have in Nashville and all the stuff that they're trying to, they don't care about really what this is about because they have their own agendas to pass. So this is just going to be a little show for them. Hopefully some good ideas come out of it, and maybe it could be something to start on for future reference. But can I say something real quick about just the individual in this whole situation and the whole, mental health issue on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, we all know there's been a lot of back and forth going on through the news, and, people want this and people want to know this. Regardless whether it's a transgender issue or whatever it is, it's basically, this person sat around and just filled herself up with hate and went out on a revenge mission. That's in a nutshell what it all is. So I don't care to know about all the details. Everybody pretty much knows what this was all about. These people are hurt. They're lost. They're confused. There's many different things you can call them. But the only thing that's going to help these people mentally to keep them from going out and doing this stuff is love and friendship. And when they single themselves out and they put themselves in such a different shell and a different world of their own, it just makes it difficult for people to reach out to them. So I think in the end that's what we're going to need. But this special sessions, I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people saying that, and yet I see a lot of bills that I think could have some impact. I mean, the SRO bill itself, the human trafficking bill. I mean, these are good pieces of legislation, are they not? So the SRO bill would take it a step further. Already the state of Tennessee is funding SROs in elementary schools. And it's my understanding, I've not read the direct language of the bill, but it's my understanding from Representative Sapicki, the goal of the bill is to nudge, if you will, I'm trying to say it kindly, local communities into hiring these SROs that have already been funded for their local system, specifically Nashville. For those unaware, for whatever reason, the Metro Nashville school system has SROs in middle school. They have 2 per high school, but they do not have SROs in elementary schools. And now Chief Drake says he doesn't have the staffing in order to do it, but they have $5.25 million that was provided by the state of Tennessee that they turned down in order to hire those 70 individuals that it would take to put an SRO in every elementary school. That piece of legislation is before us. There's another bill that would require Well, I could just go through some of them. There's House Bill 7002 would require public, private, charter, and church-related schools to develop safety response procedures for how schools, teachers, and staff should respond when a fire alarm is activated outside of a regular fire drill. Distinguishing whether the emergency is a fire, weather, or an active shooter situation. We now have the technology where you can make the distinction between those three. Then we should have special procedures in place to do just that in our various school systems. That's a good thing. Once again, I'm not a fan of the special. I just don't hate the special like some. And I understand the frustration that we're wasting money that we don't necessarily need to waste. I get that, and I'm right there with you. I just try to remain open to the possibility that some good can actually come of this, unlike others who want to suggest that all of this is a false flag operation, and there are plenty of organizations out there doing so, suggesting that this is a false flag in order to seize your guns, and that's just doing no one any good. It's infighting in such a way that I think it harms us all. Bobby is next in Nashville. Hey, Bobby, glad you called. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. What's on your mind?
Well, you were talking about the mental health issue, and I think that's, of course, one of the biggest things that are dealt with in these few days. And the problem with that is many of the terms that are used are so subjective. And so we don't know how they're going to be defined or what ultimately they're going to mean. Now, I am all for people who have mental health problems getting all the help that they need. But once you begin to expand that,
there are a lot of them. You're right. And the devil is in the definitions of.
Oh, yeah. And that really bothers me, because one of the things, too, is there's at least one bill, if not two, that talks about moving some of this into the classroom. And that's always a bother to me in terms of who gets access to the children. Are the parents involved? Do the parents know about it? What kind of records are being kept on all this? And how will it be used when the children are older? Will they get some sort of a title or something that will follow them the rest of their lives? This is not an easy thing to deal with, for sure, even if you have good intentions.
No, I agree with you. And one person's mental instability, one person's committable mental instability is another person's eccentricity, right? So in what we are trying to do, Bobby, and I think you put your finger right on it, we are trying to predetermine before someone commits violence that they're going to commit violence. I don't know. I think most of us would agree that if you are different or a little, mentally off as we would define it, that's one thing. But being off in such a way where you're a direct threat to other people, that's another thing. But our system of government and our belief in individual liberty is not prepared to predetermine whether or not we think you're going to commit violence before you commit violence.
Exactly.
And it's one of the dangers in trying to figure this out is that you're taking away rights prior to commission of any crime. I mean, it really is like Minority Report in that regard. I want to address, before we get a break, 8525. I don't think we're enemies here, 8525. I think we're just looking at it a little bit differently. 8525 writes in and says, we are hundreds down now. And I assume when you say we, you mean, so you're saying the police department. I don't know if you're a part of the department or not. But 8525 writes in and says, do you understand the difference between staffing and funding? Funding is not the problem. I do understand the difference, and I do understand that the Metro Nashville Police Department is down. I've heard as many as 300 positions. I've heard as few as 200 positions. You would need 70 individuals dedicated to the SRO program. What I am saying to you is that the police chief of the city of Nashville turned down $5.25 million in money that could have been used to hire additional people because he says that he cannot hire those additional people. And he used as an excuse, and I don't believe this is Chief Drake talking necessarily. I think it's a lot of Adrian Battle talking. He said, well, we only have a year, and then we would have to give that money back. That means you had until July of 2024 to attempt to fill those positions, amongst others, and you chose not to do so, and you just handed the money back. Well, I guarantee you're not going to fill those positions if you don't try. And that's my only point. Why aren't we trying to fill those positions to do, like the legislature says it wants to do, everything in our power to protect our children, absent the violation of constitutional rights? It's 12:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WT, and you will not believe what I'm going to tell you about a band that you probably are familiar with and a song that you probably have enjoyed over time. Well, it's not going to be available to you on their greatest hits album. I'll tell you why next. Savory Spice is one of my favorite locations to go in. One, it smells so good. When you walk into Savory Spice, either through L&L Market on Charlotte Pike, or if you are in Franklin, they're just off the square. You walk down the street, you turn into Savory Spice, and even before you get into the facility, into the building, you smell the deliciousness. You smell the different spices. Oh, they've got such a wide variety. They've got dill, they've got garlic, they've got the salts. They've got mustard powder. They've got just anything you can imagine. Taco seasoning. The wife used the taco seasoning on some of these Cheez-Its that she makes. Oh, my goodness gracious. They're not on my diet, but I ate a few anyway because they were so good. And they were so good. Thank you to Savory Spice. She actually wrote the recipe down just in case anyone wanted it. So the bottom line is this. If you're trying to up your food game, you need to up your spice game. And the only way you up your spice game is through Savory Spice. They've got popcorn seasonings. They've got pre-done mixes where you don't have to think about it. You just put the meat in the container. You put the setting on, like the crock pot, for example. They got a lot of crock pot recipes for you at Savory Spice. They make it easier to cook, and they make it more flavorable when you eat at Savory Spice. Got my mouth watering just thinking about it. Savory Spice, 2 locations, as I mentioned, one off the square in Franklin, the other L&L Market. Tell David or Holly that Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
One down, two to go. I'll have to suspend our conversation about a rock and roll band that's decided to suspend a song from their greatest hits album for reasons that will become apparent in hour number 2. We'll do that in the second hour. Continue to take your telephone calls. Plus, new information on Special Counsel Weiss and his very special relationship with Beau Biden. That's on the way in hour number 2 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Your opportunity to call in as well, 615-737-9986, 737-WWTN. You can also join us online on the Super Text line at the same number. 2 more to go on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
From ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. The big cleanup is underway in Southern California after an historic storm and an earthquake.
Well, there was a tropical storm in the area in the late 90s. The National Weather Service says Hillary was the first to directly impact Southern California since the 1930s. And in that storm, nearly 100 years ago, over 100 people died. This time, it appears there were no deaths, no serious injuries, or serious damage.
I thought it'd be fun.
LA Mayor Karen Bass saying,
The Los Angeles Fire Department so far has reported no damage or injuries in the city.
Government workers and students who were told to stay home today are being told it's back to normal tomorrow. Alex Stone, ABC News in Los Angeles County.
President Biden and the First Lady are on their way to Maui. He is expected to name a federal recovery coordinator when he gets there.
I traveled over to Lahaina. I met with survivors, saw some parts of the devastation that goes on for miles and miles. They have so much work when it comes to rebuilding, and that's something that we're expecting to see the president, the First Lady, and the head of FEMA view this destruction and speak with the survivors, because there is so much work here to do on the ground.
ABC's Melissa Adun on Maui. Wildfires are still burning in Canada.
No one's claiming victory at this stage, especially as forecasters warn of drier, windier weather coming. Paying tribute to those fighting the fires and average citizens helping others, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
This is what we do as Canadians. We're there for each other. We continue to step up for each other. And even amidst all the horrible images, there is a reinforcement of who Canadians are.
It's Canada's worst fire season on record. Tom Rivers, ABC News, The Foreign Desk.
A new study finds guns were the leading cause of death among children and adolescents in 2021 and have surpassed the initial pandemic level. Just before the hour, the Dow was down 88 points. You're listening to ABC News.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show gets underway right now, 105. Thank you for being with us. It is hot, man. Hot, hot, hot. I got yard work to do this afternoon.
I'm right there with you. My yard looks like a jungle right now.
I should have done it this weekend, but I couldn't pull the trigger on it. And so now I have to do it this afternoon. You want to come over? You want to come over and do some of mine?
I am already stuck busy with all the stuff I have to do. We got bushes to trim, weeds to pull out. Not a fun time.
Yeah, well, at least it's going to be a
scorcher,
a dry heat.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I walked out of my house today and I was like, I don't have to swim through the air.
Yeah, it's hot. It's a typical summertime week. I mean, with temperatures getting up to 100 degrees by the end of the week, and everybody wants to talk about the heat indices. I don't talk about the heat indices very much because I don't know how you feel about the heat one way or the other. People like to tell you how you feel. They call it the real feels, which is not a preferred term on the Matt Murphy Show, and I absolutely hate it. But humidity is going to add to the level of discomfort in the out of doors when it's 100 degrees outside. Just suffice it to say that.
Sorry, I just want to pull back. What was that phrase you hate? I just want to make sure I'm not using it.
Real feels.
Noted.
I can handle heat index. I get that heat index is a thing. This is a long-standing complaint of mine. Either wind to chill or real feels or heat index. I believe the weather people focus on the heat index so much because it over-dramatizes what they're doing, and that makes them more important.
Makes them stand out a little more.
It makes them stand out. So it's not enough to say that it's 95 degrees outside. We got to say that it's 109 degrees outside, and so we treat the real feels as if it's the temperature. The temperature is the temperature. How you feel about the temperature is your business, and how it makes you feel when it's more humid outside is also up to you. And for them to tell, I mean, I just don't like people telling me how I feel about things.
I'm right there with you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, well, it's 98 degrees, but the real feels is 127.
You're despicable.
Yeah, I just don't get into all of that. Although it will be hot, don't get me wrong. I'll let you know how hot it gets this afternoon. Just check me out on Twitter as I'm out drenched in sweat trying to get some of the yard work done. They're trying to get a few things done in the special session. It convenes in about 3 hours or so. Curious what your thoughts on whether or not the special session will accomplish anything. It seems that most of you don't believe that it will. It's odd what I've experienced, and I'm not wagging my finger. I'm just observing. I'm not judging anyone. I'm just observing. People are, with a fair amount of regularity, tell me, nothing good will come of this. And then I bring up some of the things that I think might come of it. Oh, well, that's fine. Now, I would agree with you that none of this needed necessarily to happen in a special session. The governor gets to call that special session, though. And the governor, as he said last week on our show, felt that this met the definition of extraordinary circumstances, considering what happened at Covenant School, and he believes that certain things can be accomplished in the arena of public safety. I do not believe that any of those will have anything to do with special order of protection or red flag laws. Those seem to be DOA dead on arrival. But there are many, many bills that have been filed, including bills that would make it a felony offense to recklessly threaten an act of mass violence, a proposal that would authorize private schools entering or serving pre-K through grades 12 to adopt a handgun carry policy for the school's private property. That's good, right? Isn't that good? Paige Wally presented a bill that would clarify what local law enforcement, how they could be notified when a person is committed to inpatient mental health facilities. There's another bill that would require juvenile offenders 16 years or older to be transferred to adult court if they're charged with theft of a firearm. That's good, right? Let's see. Jeff Yarbrough, Democrat, Nashville, and Anthony Davis, Democrat, Nashville, are attempting to pass a bill preventing road rage, which would create a felony charge for reckless handling, display, or discharge of a gun while driving or riding in a car. I don't know that I agree with that. That feels like that could be used against gun ownership. There's also a bill that would require school districts to prohibit possession, carry, or storage of firearm or ammunition on school property by students. That's also by a Democrat. I don't think that one's going anywhere. I don't think it addresses. I don't think that exists now. I don't think we have a lot of kids bringing ammo to school. But maybe I'm wrong. There was one that House Bill 7033 would require a public bail hearing before defendants can be released on bail. That's interesting. I don't understand this. Maybe I need some additional information. But as it's written, this bill seems odd to me. House Bill 7033 by Cameron Sexton, an act to amend the Tennessee Code, notwithstanding another law to the contrary, when a defendant has been arrested or held to answer for a bailable offense, the defendant may only be admitted to bail following a hearing which must be open to the public. So you have to have a public hearing before someone can be bailed out of jail? That seems odd. And the road rage law, many of you are saying, I think the road rage law already exists, so I don't really know what we're doing on that front. It's 111 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Mike is in Tullahoma, I bet it's Tullahoma. Hey, Mike, how are you? Hey, Mike. Mike. Hold on.
I'm here.
Hey, Mike, what's going on?
There you go. Listen, this is such a big issue to cover, and common sense prevails on some of them. I haven't been able to read all of them on the special session, but I can tell you, in my opinion, not all of it, but some of it is a waste of time, and I think they're buckling to constituents that are bringing these subjects up. Though some are important, and some can go by the wayside. But you commented earlier, what is the definition of a mental illness before they go ahead and classify that they are not allowed, forbidden from, or whatever the case may be, to handle a firearm? That's my short version on that. The firearm, for them to say, and I was going to say initially when I heard the red flag law, that they should start a database with people with severe mental illness. But the Civil Liberties Union will probably have a field day with that. But until they come up with an absolute definition, which I think is impossible, for a mental illness where people are going to be a danger to themselves or others, that's a moot point. It's just like trying to take away guns from law-abiding citizens. That's like making, setting the sheep up for the wolves. You're never going to do it. Never going to do it. There's too many firearms. There's too much access from bad people to obtain firearms, and all you're going to do is put people out as victims.
No,
away their guns.
Well, no, we have to hold the line. It's up to each of us, Mike. I would say this, and thank you for the call. That I've heard various organizations say that we should demand that they gavel out of a special session, not because of what good could come from it, but because they should never do a special session to begin with, and the dangers of, there's a conspiracy theory running around about how all of this is a ruse, it's a false flag operation, and that the fix is in, and they're going to pass red flag laws. I don't believe that for a second, but part of my responsibility is to be here should that happen. Speaking of people who are there, Aaron Gulbranson is joining us with the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition. He's called in about some of the activities going on and some of the shenanigans already being engaged in by the political left. Hey, Aaron, how are you?
I am all right. We're over the target. As you know, the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition is standing up for a constitution, fighting against human and child trafficking. And we tweeted something earlier today where we talked about praying for the safety of everybody in the Nashville area, the legislators and the like. And apparently, and it looks like the source, but this has been tweeted by John Ray Clemens, Heidi Campbell, the Tennessee Holler, and a gentleman, that I shouldn't use the term, named David Dark, that superimposed an image of our post that was just text talking about prayer, and that we hope everybody was safe for potential Marxist attacks, and they included an image of the Proud Boys on there. And I want to be very, 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 very clear to everybody listening. I listen my entire board, and I believe I have to say this, have never had anything to do with the press. I think they're stupid, and I honestly have an eminent name as a group. That aside, I think it's possible John Ray Clemens, Heidi Campbell, and those Marxists on the left, and the Adam Theaters and fans
do that.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I if they apologize and take it down, we'll accept it. But at this point in time, I think this is a purposeful attack on a group that is known for defending the Constitution. We're obviously people of faith, and I've seen nothing but scorn in particular from John Ray Clemens towards people of faith in our organization. And it just shows you the depths of depravity that exist in the Marxist left to this day. And, of course, the battlefield that you're jumping in. I mean, they're just making garbage up that doesn't exist, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And then it shows you it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, we can take it, but we obviously want to spread the truth. And the truth is, we are praying for the safety of everybody at the General Assembly. You reported it. The Tennessee Stars reported it. We wrote a letter to Governor Lee about it, that Marxists had made plans to do stuff. So these are all facts. And then obviously, the thing is about the dumbest thing I've seen, and it just keeps happening. The things keep to be getting dumber and dumber and dumber in politics.
Well, I think, and I hold on a second. I think I'm getting more of a pic. You're right. I originally thought that somebody, John Ray Clements, had put these two things together. I think John Ray Clements did this, and may ask these tactics. Because surely they're not referring to covenant families or parents, or so he posed with a photograph and is now suggesting that somehow the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition is associated with the Proud Boys. These scumbags will do anything and everything to cause trouble. They are intentionally attempting to get people in your organization hurt, Aaron, and they ought to be ashamed. Really, they ought to be booted out of office, but I can't do that. They certainly ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Well, I 100% demand an apology, although I doubt we'll get one. And I do believe when you engage in this sort of behavior, I would call on John Ray Clemens specifically and Heidi Campbell to resign.
There you go. There's Aaron Gobranson. Call me back if there's any update on the story, Aaron. Will you do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, so these are the types of tactics. Understand something. The Democrats have no interest in getting anything done in this special session. If you want to talk about who the real enemies of the people and personal liberty are, it's people like John Ray Clements, who has been repeatedly invited on this show. He ran around the state in a bus claiming that he wanted to talk to conservatives about guns and gun ownership and gun rights, and I repeatedly invited him on this show, and he refuses to come on. John Ray is the type of person that throws a rock and hides his hand. He will not step up to the plate and defend in the arena of ideas the things that he wants to accomplish in the legislative process. Instead, he takes to lying about organizations, about good people like Gull Branson of the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition, a good friend of the show. So just a reset for you, the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition posted an offer of prayer for the safety of law enforcement, staff, etc. John Ray Clemens put that post up with a photograph of the Proud Boys, putting it up as if it had been posted with that photograph, and then said, I guess these are the Marxists gathering to stage their usual intimidation tactics that we need to be worried about. So he's intentionally associating the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition, a Christian organization, with the Proud Boys when there is no association. They will lie, cheat, and steal to turn you into subjects. It's 1:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Paul Winkler and his team of advisors at Paul Winkler, Inc. You know, I get paid to tell you about Paul Winkler on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, every time this commercial airs, that's okay, because I believe in the way that Paul does his business, so much so that I am a client. Paul's name kept coming up when I asked about financial planning and financial advice, and now I know him. You know him as well. He's done a radio show on this station for over 20 years. Paul and his team voluntarily hold themselves to the highest level of fiduciary status. That's why I mention that I get paid when I talk about Paul. But I love what Paul does for his community. Set up a free 15-minute telephone call right now on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. Or you can give them a call. They'll educate you, and they will help you in your financial investment future. 615-851-1950. Once again, 615-851-1950. 10 separate offices to serve. A free 15-minute telephone consultation when you call 615-851-1950. We'll continue discussing the special session that will be already getting spicy in front of the Tennessee State Capitol. Sitting representatives like John Ray Clemens shaming that body. Just to reset here, because I believe in the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition. I think they're trying to do good work, especially with regard to their efforts against human trafficking and especially child trafficking. And in that regard, they have been involved in attempting to see legislation passed during the special session involving human trafficking and child trafficking. I mean, after all, if it is a session on public safety, what could be more important? And so the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition offered a prayer that everyone will be safe and free from intimidation tactics or whatever in front of the Tennessee Capitol as the special session begins. John Ray Clemens decided to put that post up with a picture of the Proud Boys and insinuate at least that the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition had included that photograph on their original post. It is shameful. It is intentional. It ought to be denounced. And if it was mistakenly retweeted by Senator Heidi Campbell, so be it, but I don't believe that for a second. I think all of these people know exactly what they're doing. And one of the reasons that I on Friday got so upset with some of my conservative friends that were falling into this trap of conspiracy theories involving the governor and other Republicans, you're doing the left a service when you do this. You're doing a disservice to any possibility that you have any good coming out of this special session. Speaking of, TR is next. Hey, TR, hope you're well.
Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
I'm great, TR. What's on your mind?
Good. Just about really no laws are going to fix anything nowadays. It's all about the children and their raising. My dad, he used to bring his shotgun and rifle to school. And you were raised not to do that, and you were raised not to use that in a harmful way unless your life depended on it.
Well, I could not hear the last part of what you said. You were talking about bringing a shotgun or a rifle to school back in the day, right?
Yes, sir. My dad used to take them to school with him, and you can't do that nowadays because just the kids and teenagers just aren't raised as I was, and you can't fix that through the law. You have to fix that with the parents.
No, I mean, you can't do that anymore. Times have sadly changed. I remember when I was a kid, there were times when I would go to school, and I'm almost 50 years old, TR. Thank you for the call today. I remember a time going to school where I never had a gun rack in my vehicle, but I took a shotgun or a rifle to school from time to time and did not fear that someone would see it and scream bloody murder or call the cops. And this was in the late 80s. Early 90s. I graduated in 1991. But those times have changed, sadly. I say sadly only in as much as our world has changed and you have to react to it. And unfortunately, you just see a lot more shootings. You see a lot of dangerous situations that go on in schools that we did not see so much of. There were some. They were very isolated. You see it with a lot more regularity. I've told the story many times on air in the past that when I was growing up, I grew up and my grandparents raised me primarily. My mother suffered a malignant brain tumor when I was 5 years old, and although she lived for another 25 years, a lot of that was in a nursing home facility. But bottom line is this: I was raised by my grandparents, and in my grandfather's modest home, there was a gun rack in the guest bedroom, and there was a gun cabinet in his bedroom, in the main bedroom. And the gun rack, I mean, obviously there were rifles in the gun rack that were loaded. In the gun cabinet had a key, and the key was in the gun cabinet. It was a glass door on the gun cabinet. I knew where every pistol in that house was. Everyone. And obviously I knew about the long guns, but I did not touch them because I knew not to. I was taught not to. Well, times have changed now. And while many households without children might make the decision to leave their guns in strategic places, I know I do, even absent a biometric safe or whatever, most of us with kids have decided that out of an abundance of caution, you're going to have a safe. You're going to have a biometric. You're going to have something that prevents kids from getting their hands on that. I never once remember considering touching a gun, much less taking one to school for any sort of nefarious intent. But yet again, those times have changed significantly since we were kids, and you just can't expect for it to be that way anymore. Now, would I like to get back to that? Yes. One of the reasons that we've changed over the years, the leftists are winning in their mind games with our young people. They want to not just suggest, but they emphatically state that the introduction of a gun in any situation whatsoever is a negative thing. And they've infused that into the minds of young people. So if it just so happens, as has happened to me in the past, where if I'm concealed carry and I'm at a business establishment and I lean over in a particular way, or I go to get something off a shelf or whatever, and someone sees that I have a gun on my person, you can almost expect, oh, they get crazy about it. Why? Because they've been trained, they've been taught, they've been mentally infected with this idea that anytime someone has a gun, they want to do bad things with that gun. And that is not true. Obviously, it's not true. The left has done a good job, sadly, of infecting the minds of our young people with this idea that guns are bad, that guns are the problem. Not bad people, bad guns. And until we reverse that course, we're never going to see a time where you can take a shotgun to high school again for the purposes of whatever, going out and, going dove hunting with your grandpa later on, which is what I used to do. Nah, never going to happen. It's 1:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. More of your calls coming up on the special session and much more. I promised I would have more to say about Trump skipping the debate, and we'll do that next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. One of the things I'm so pleased to do on the radio show on a regular basis is offer my thank you to law enforcement, those men and women that put on the uniform and keep our communities safe. And I so appreciate what they do. And now it's time to show all of our appreciation. Thank you to Stokes Nielsen, who's putting on a law enforcement appreciation concert. He's done 7 of these across the country since 2021, and now he's bringing one to Nashville. Now, sadly, because of the nature of what some of the people in law enforcement that will be in attendance do, the event is closed to the public. That is just to protect those who are there. However, Stokes wants to give you the opportunity to show these law enforcement officers your support. The goal is to cover the venue with posters of support from the community. While you can't mingle the night of the event, you can show them your love and your support through signs of encouragement and signs of thank you. Stokes is looking for enough posters that each officer will be able to take one home, and there'll be plenty of media, there'll be plenty of photographs and whatnot of your posters. So I'm thinking of a church organization, a school group, a family get-together on a Sunday afternoon where you sit down with the kids and you let them go to town on a poster board. We need your help. We need at least 200 posters. All you have to do to volunteer is to sign up at signvolunteer997@gmail.com. Email Stokes and talk to him about it. Signvolunteer997@gmail.com. He'll give you all of the details about the event and what you can do with your poster. Signvolunteer997@gmail.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I made promises, and I've not yet kept those promises, but I'm about to fulfill said same. So we'll get back to special session in just a moment. Guns in school. Your thoughts on the super text line or on the phone line, 615-737-9986. I don't know how we get back to helping young people understand the serious nature of handling guns, but also understand that the gun in and of itself can be used for good or for bad, and it all depends on the mental spirit and the godly spirit of the individual that's holding the gun. And I understood that without even knowing it when I was a kid, and I fear that we've lost that. To the point that now Joe Biden's running around trying to pull funding from any school system that has hunting certifications. Hold on, I have to sneeze. Sorry. There might be another one coming. No, I'm good. Okay, so one of my favorite bands is Queen. Always loved Queen. It was before my time. I did not grow up with Queen. Like, I was introduced to Queen when I was growing up, but they were already well established from the 1970s and 1980s. And I was, that was way before my time, right? But did nobody know what Freddie Mercury was doing? I mean, this is just an aside, but, right? I mean, did everyone just assume that they had named their band after the Queen of England as opposed to whatever? Anyway, so they have a song called Fat Bottomed Girls, which is recognized as an absolute classic. Now, it's a little racy, especially if you listen to the lyrics. I was just a skinny lad. Let's see if I can get it. I was just a skinny lad, never knew no good from bad, but I knew life before I left my nursery, I think. Left alone with big fat Fanny. She was such a naughty nanny. That big woman, she made a bad boy out of me. So it was released in 1978. It was the double-A side of Bicycle Race, which is a fairly harmless song. I think Bicycle Race was on a night at the opera. Man, no, Bicycle Race was on a day at the races. There was a day at the races and a night at the opera, and I think Bicycle Race was on a day at the races. One way or the other. Most of us know this song. Queen has made the decision. The song was not written by Freddie Mercury. It was written by Brian May. Queen has now made the decision to remove the song from their greatest hits album, despite universal belief that it is one of their greatest hits. Because, wokeness and all.
As if it should belong on a greatest hits album.
I mean, it's obvious that it should belong on a greatest hit. What?
Of course.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I'm right there with you.
So the song does not apparently make the cut on the new version of Queen's greatest hits. And there's an assumption that it met the cutting room floor because of its content. Released in 1981, the greatest hits set passed 1,000 weeks on the official albums chart Top 100, becoming just the third album to do so. It's the first by a British act or a rock band. It became the first album to shift 7 million sales in the UK alone. And now it has been removed. Fat Bottom Girls has been removed from the greatest hits album because, but here's the thing. It celebrates Fat Bottom Girls. It's an ode. It's an homage to Fat Bottom Girls. You make the rockin' world go round. And I thought being fat-bottomed was a cause de celeb nowadays, right? I thought we were supposed to celebrate all things rounded or fat-bottomed. But now, I guess, selectively, we get to decide which is woke and which is not woke, which is acceptable and which is not acceptable. I don't know anything about the musical artist Lizzo, but she celebrates her fatness, right? I'm not saying that as I'm not telling anybody anything about being fat. I'm still losing weight myself. I'm 26.5 pounds and well on my way. So I'm not here to talk about people being fat. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying. Let's see what John in Murfreesboro has to say. John, good afternoon. Welcome.
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for calling in. What's on your mind?
So you was talking about teaching the kids about right from wrong with guns and stuff. You know, you and I are the same age. You know, when we were growing up, you know, we had a male role model in our lives to teach us. And with fatherless homes nowadays and the government incentivizing mothers to kick the fathers out of the homes, the only person they have to teach them are their buddies in the streets. And if we don't get back to where fathers are taking care of their kids and raising their kids and teaching them right from wrong, this is going to continue to be a problem.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, when you do not have a parental figure within the home that presents a firm, authoritative hand, and I'm not talking about corporal punishment necessarily, although I think that's a part of it at a certain age. If you do not have that figure, then sadly, young boys in particular, they look for those figures in their lives that they look up to. And in a lot of ways, in the bigger cities, the people that they look up to are the drug dealers or the, you know, the for a lack of a better way of saying it, the pimps on the street.
Right. And I've got 3 kids and 5 grandkids. And my 2 oldest grandkids are 11 and 9. And we go to the gun range on a regular basis. And my 9-year-old granddaughter can shoot a rifle as good as I can. It's because I've taught them right from wrong, how to respect it, how to use it, because I want my kids to know that if they're at another friend's house and they decide they want to get their dad's gun out, they're going to know that they're not supposed to be playing with it and tell that other kid, don't play with that, don't get it out. So, and the people that don't teach them are how kids get killed because they want to get them and play with them, and they don't know the proper way of using them or handling them.
Well, and not enough authoritative figures, like we say, are in the home teaching those types of things that you're discussing. And I wish I could remember. I never remember, and thank you, John, for the call. I never remember considering handling one of my grandpa's pistols, handling one of his handguns, or handling a long gun without his permission. I never remember considering it because my grandfather established, before I understood it, before I had a personal self-awareness about it, that under no circumstances do you violate his rules or his law. He laid down the law and you don't violate it. You don't violate it for fear of death. And I'm just barely over-exaggerating when I say that. And because of that, my brother is a couple of years older than me, we never considered doing anything like that. Now, we also grew up with a healthy appreciation for guns in as much as I got a Red Ryder BB gun when I was like 8. I want to say I was 8 around then. Yeah, it was 8 or 9 because I remember I got a Red Ryder BB gun. My brother was a couple of years older than me, and he got a pellet rifle. And we used to play. This is not a very good testimony to safe gun ownership. We would go into the woods and we would play war. And Brian, my brother, would be on one side of the battle, and I would be on the other side of the battle. And I got the short end of the stick because I was shooting a Red Ryder BB gun. If you have any kids in the car, I can't tell this story in good conscience without saying your kids shouldn't listen to this part of the story because it's pretty bad. We would play war and we would shoot at each other with BB guns.
Isn't that the whole thing about the movie? What movie is that?
Christmas Story, Don't Shoot Your Eye Out.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I had a BB gun. If I'm the distance between me and Mason, which is about 20 feet, and I shot Mason, when I shoot my brother with a BB gun, it would go dink and just bounce right off of him. My brother would pump his air rifle up, about 20 pumps and pop me. It would go through my clothes and lodge into my skin. And when I wanted to trade, I was like, oh, no fair. It's time to trade. He's like, no, this is my weapon. That's your weapon. You go on with your weapon, and I'll go on with my weapon. This is not the story that I intended to tell when I started this segment of the show about how we had a healthy understanding and respect for guns. I just, yes, 6447. That is right. 6447 says, wait a minute. So you're the reason that I couldn't have a BB gun. Yeah, I think I am. Luckily, my brother and I knew not to shoot toward one another's faces. Or we were smart enough, or maybe a bad shot enough not to do that. James is next in Gallatin. Hey, James, how are you?
Oh, yes, I'm doing good. How you doing today?
I'm well, James. What's on your mind?
I love the show. Man, I love this conversation about the young kids and the guns and how you grew up and you never touched the gun. I grew up in the country. I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. My parents, they've been married 50 years, and they took care of us like they were supposed to. And I'm like you. My dad had guns all over the place, but I would never touch one. I would never touch his piece of bacon that was on the counter because I was obedient because I had parents. And I believe our number one problem is, and for some reason nobody really wants to talk about this, and I believe it's because you have to look in the mirror. But you can reform anything. We don't need reform. We need parents. We don't need gun laws. We need parents. We don't need LGBT, XQZ. We need parents. And we went about, I'm 45, and I used to go to the club when I was 20. We went at least 25, 30 years of just hanging out, having kids, and not raising them, and then we got to deal with them. These kids will put on a dress and rob you and take your car. And the number one reason is because of the lack of parents. You can say whatever you want. You was talking about your grandfather. Where would you be without your grandfather?
Oh, probably. I have no idea, but you're right. Because of those strong male influences in our lives.
And you said it, young men, young boys, they look for that. It's because God told them to look for it. It's out there somewhere. But we're not putting it out there. They can't find it in a dress or in the hood or in a flag or, and we've done that to ourselves. But I believe we don't need RSO. We do need police in schools now, but the parents is the number one issue. And we've laid a platform of that for the last 30 years of no parenting. And now we got to deal with these knuckleheads.
Well, I want to slide back to a broader conversation that I'm inspired to bring up because of you, James. And look, I'm not here to tell parents how to parent. I don't have any kids, so I hesitate to do that, but I see it all around me. I see parents trying to be friends with their kids. My grandfather was no more interested in being my buddy when I was 10 years old than he was interested in being buddy to the house cat. There were rules, and I was going to follow the rules, and I needed to understand the rules. Now, there came a time in our life where we transitioned from father and son, because that's what I consider my grandpa to be, my dad. We transitioned from father and son, an authority figure, to an individual who was expected to follow the rules, and we became friends. And we were, by the time he died, I valued my grandfather more than any other person on planet Earth, and still do, because of everything that he brought me when I was a child, and how that developed into such a strong friendship as an adult. But it has to start with a parent-child relationship that is based on authority, not based on friendship.
Hey, man, you just said something. So you graduated from your grandfather's class, then you became his friend.
That's right.
You was a pupil first, and you learned a hell of a lot of speed. But, yeah, then these kids, they're missing that. I mean, and I don't know if it'll ever come back. I pray to God that it will. But even when you do have good parents, the child might, be a knucklehead. But you can't just throw a little boy out there and say, hey, here goes the world. Good luck.
No.
Democrat. You know you messed up.
James, great call. Thank you for making it. Please call again very soon. It's 1:52. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN and the Matt Murphy Show. The Tennessee Men's Clinic wants you to call, gentlemen, if you feel run down, if you feel sluggish, if you don't have the energy that you used to have. There might be a reason for that, and it might be all in your numbers. And the Tennessee Men's Clinic, they're going to find out some of those numbers. I mean, there's a lot of different numbers you need to know about. Cholesterol is one of them. Blood pressure is one of them. Your T level is another. And if some of those numbers are lower than they should be, that is a natural occurrence in life, men. And sadly, over the last 20 or 30 or 40 years, you're seeing a steady decline in certain numbers that matter. And if you have a decline in your life, you could see that manifested itself in, I don't know, a desire to go to the gym, willingness to go out and do some yard work, or even bedroom activities. If that is the case, no shame in this game. Let's get with the Tennessee Men's Clinic and let's get it repaired. It's as easy as a telephone call to set up an appointment today. I want you to call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. 2 locations to serve you. One is in Franklin in the Cool Springs area. The other in Midtown. Been there for a long time. They've been doing this for a long time, and they do it the right way at Tennessee Men's Clinic. When you call, when you make that appointment, let them know that Matt Murphy sent you to the Tennessee Men's Clinic.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
It's 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories right now. 95 degrees and feels like temperatures are in the triple digits up to 107 degrees. And that all coincides with the heat advisory that's in effect for a portion of Middle Tennessee. That's until 8 p.m. tonight. Got a complete forecast just a few minutes away. Right now in Nashville, state lawmakers convene Governor Lee's special session on public safety to work on legislation that expands mental health resources, school safety, and stricter penalties for violent crimes. But Republican leadership have vowed not to consider anything restricting someone's access to firearms, including Governor Lee's proposed enhanced order of protection when a court rules someone is a threat to themselves or the public. Channel 4 says that this morning, members outside of the state capitol building, they were members of Proud Boys group praying together. They had a flag reading, quote, Smashville Proud Boys FAF, while allegedly holding up a gesture regularly linked to white supremacy. And now over, President Biden heading to Maui today. The death toll in Lahaina now standing at 114, hundreds still missing. Karen Travers.
The White House says it will be an emotional day for President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden when they visit Maui to get a firsthand look at the wildfire damage and connect with residents. Principal Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton told reporters on Air Force One en route to Hawaii that the president will meet with parents who lost children and children who lost parents, as well as speak with first responders who saved people's homes while their own homes burned to the ground. The president and First Lady will take an aerial tour to see the scope of the devastation and then see a hard-hit area in the town of Lahaina.
And now over to some Donald Trump news. Looking at some breaking news right here. Trump's lawyers at Fulton County Courthouse, they're expected to discuss former president's bonds terms. That's right now. And the former president's resting on a lead of more than 40 points in some polls. The former president says the public already knows who he is, and therefore he's not going to be attending Republican debates. And sources say that Donald Trump has already recorded an interview with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson. It's been suggested that sit-down will be Trump's effort at counter-programming against Wednesday night's debate. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
United Structural Systems is here for you when you need them. I joke around and tell you that you don't want to call USS. I know that you don't technically want to call them because in doing so, you're accepting that you have an issue that needs to be dealt with. But here's the great thing. At USS, they're never going to tell you that something's wrong that isn't, obviously. They're going to fix what ails your foundation or your waterproofing in your home or your concrete. And when they do, off they go. They'll only fix what is necessary, and they will satisfy you. Their number one goal when they walk onto your property is to make sure that they satisfy you, the customer, and they achieve the goals that you set before them. In other words, they're going to correct the concrete on your driveway, for example, with a polylift system, or they're going to offer waterproofing services that will prevent the must and the mold and the mildew from coming inside of your home. Or, they don't wish foundation repair on you, but in these hills and valleys of Tennessee, you get it a lot. And they are the trusted source to correct those foundation issues since 1994. They have over 25,000 satisfied residential customers to lean on for testimonials, and you can find them all at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. Give them a call today. I encourage you to do that if you notice issues within your home. They can help. They guarantee their best. They're USS 615-488-7855, 488-7855, or USSTN.com. Here we go. It's hour number 3 of the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A Monday edition continues. We're proud, pleased that you've decided to join us for the length of time that you do. Whatever time you give us, we're appreciative of it. Thank you so much. 615-737-9986. That's our telephone number. That's also the super text line. Please super text us or telephone us if you so desire. We love speaking to you directly. It's one of my favorite things to do during the course of our broadcast today together. You can also find us online at 997WTN.com, and you can find us on the television side of things. You can stream us, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You can go to 997WTN.com and get to Super Talk TV that way, and there's an F&M Bank chat line ongoing on Super Talk TV, and it's always a lot of fun to see what the chatters are clamoring about on Super Talk TV. We'll get back to your calls momentarily. We'll get back to the special session momentarily as well. But it seems that Donald Trump has finalized his plans to skip at least the first debate, and I think it's a mistake. I understand it, but I also think it's a mistake. Former President Donald Trump, we are now told, plans to skip Wednesday's Republican primary debate and instead has already sat, and the expectation is that they will counter-program the Fox News debate with a Tucker Carlson interview the night of Wednesday. The debate night plan, which was first reported by the New York Times, was finalized in recent days after Trump spent weeks sort of, beta testing whether or not he should be there or no. The exact timing of the Tucker interview is still up in the air, but I predicted several weeks ago that Donald Trump would either be at the debate or he would do something to counter the debate. He's not going to sit at home while the debate goes on, in my opinion. I think he'll do something to counteract the debate, whether that's a pre-recorded interview already done with Tucker Carlson or something different. I do not believe that this is in the best interest of the general election campaign. Now, let me tell you where I'm at on this. Donald Trump, absent some extraordinary circumstance, some unforeseen circumstance that is dramatic in its nature. Here we are, August 21st of 2023, and I feel comfortable telling you we're about a year away from the Republican National Convention. The Republican National Convention that we could have been hosting here in Nashville, that one, it still chaps my hide. Still does. That the politicalization of an event like this led the Metro Council to not further up or further an exchange with the RNC to promote the idea of them coming into town and spending untold millions of dollars in doing so. I mean, it's a shame that we don't have the RNC coming to town. Nashville would be a perfect place for the Republican National Convention. Hell, I would even welcome the Democrats. They can come and spend their money like anybody else. I was downtown the other day. I was at the Ryman Friday night. Oh, my goodness. Did you hear Chris Hand talking about his dog? I had a similar experience Friday night. It was bad. Anyway. Also, before I get away from this, while I'm thinking about it, I'm looking at Mason. minutes before we came back on the air. Do you want to tell everybody what you said? Mason is in for Bell K today. Bell, I don't know if he's out because of his birthday or he's out in spite of his birthday, but it's his birthday today. And instead of being here celebrating his birthday and accepting all of those birthday accolades, he's off today for some reason. And Mason's in his stead, and we were talking about doing something for Bell on his birthday.
Yeah, I thought we were doing this next segment.
Okay, you want me to wait on it?
Yeah, I mean, you can call me out now. I just thought Bell might want to be listening by that time. If he is, who knows if he's awake by now.
Mason had a good idea for us to publicly acknowledge Bell's birthday today, and in doing so, play a song from his favorite artists. Would you care to tell everyone who those artists are, Mason?
ABBA.
Is that the way you said it earlier, Mason?
It's the way I'm saying it on the air.
I thought you said, wait, I don't know that
you want me to say it?
Yeah, you say it. What?
I said ABBA.
Oh.
Wait.
And I know.
I don't even think you said that. I thought you said like ABBA. You didn't
ABBA?
say ABBA.
No,
you
don't
didn't
you
say
ever.
ABBA.
No.
But it's ABBA.
Yes. Yeah.
You said it weird.
I said ABBA.
ABBA. That's what you
ABBA,
said.
yeah,
You
that's
said
what I just
ABBA.
said that I said that I said.
You said ABBA, not ABBA. You said ABBA.
Yes.
But it's
yes,
ABBA.
I did.
I think it's ABBA.
It
For
is.
sure,
It
ABBA.
is. It is ABBA. That is how it's been said. I have heard
That's
it
how it's been
both
said.
ways.
No, it's how it's said.
Listen here.
It's really either, neither, neither. It's tomato.
I'm only here once in a blue moon. I'll take my opinions and keep them.
Let's just agree to disagree.
I know how it's pronounced.
I'm only here once in a blue A Moon. It's me.
You can't handle the truth.
Anyway, so we'll play some ABBA or ABBA,
ABBA.
For Bell later on. I could tell you with no, I'm not going to say that because he might be listening. I don't want to ruin anything. But yeah. So you make a selection of your choosing. By the way, hearkening back to a previous segment of the show, just so you super texters stop hitting me up, I'm sorry that Mason and I forgot Hazy Shade of Winter. I'm sorry.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It has been blowing up in the super text line.
So we had the Bangles a little earlier, Manic Monday, and I said stupidly, by the way, now that I think about it, because there's at least 3 other songs. I was like, that was about it for the Bang. I mean, that and Walk Like an Egyptian, and then Eternal Flame is one, and then the remake. You know who, for a ton of cash and prizes, Mason, who was the original artist on Hazy Shade of Winter?
Oh, don't do that to me. I am...
Very different song. Very different song.
Educate me.
Mac Moore, you want to go for it?
No clue.
Paul Simon. Simon and
Really?
Garfunkel. I don't know if he did it as Simon and Garfunkel, but it was Paul Simon wrote it.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a much more mellow acoustic version.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And then they ginned it up. Okay, it's 2:13 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Your thoughts on the president skipping the debate? Now, it makes sense that the president would skip. He's got a 40-point lead. Now, I understand from a political perspective why you do this. I still disagree with it. I want my candidates in front of the people of the United States of America, whether it's a primary or whether it's the general election. I want you to be able to stand on a debate stage, and I've said this about Republicans and Democrats alike, because we watch Republicans do this all the time. I'm telling you, they do. I saw it in ruby red states. You see Republicans refusing to debate their Democrat adversaries. Kay Ivey is a good example. I just left the state of Alabama. Kay Ivey is a beloved grandmotherly figure in that state. She's also the governor. She was appointed the position of governor when Robert Bentley had to resign in disgrace. She then eventually won the election. But she refused to debate not only her Republican counterparts on the primary stage, but then she refused to debate the Democrat who was also running. And I was against it then, and I'm against it now. I believe that you owe it to the people. You don't have to debate every time, but you owe it to the people to step up to the stage and debate regardless of how much of a lead that you have. That's just what I believe. This is nothing anti-Trump. I understand the reasoning behind it. Trust me. I know why he's doing it in the primary, but I think he's kind of cutting off his nose to spite his face, and here's what I mean. If the Democrats are determined to run Joe Biden, there is 0.000 chance that Joe Biden debates anybody. I would go so far as to suggest to you that the Democrats would love nothing more than an excuse to keep Joe Biden in the basement if they decide to run him. I can think of a couple of ways why or how they would do that. I mean, another pandemic wouldn't hurt, huh? So if they desire to keep Joe Biden as low profile as possible, you're handing them a victory when it comes to the debates. I do not believe that Joe Biden, especially now, Joe Biden embarrassed himself with a fair amount of regularity during the Democrat primary debates. And especially in the general election. I believe that he would embarrass himself further if he were forced to take a debate stage again, if he could do it. You're handing him an excuse not to do it. And while I understand there's a difference between the political primary and the general election, Joe Biden will be able to say, I'm not going to lower myself to debate Donald Trump. We know what Trump is. I think voters know what I am. I have a 50-year record. If Trump goes to the primary debate, he can counter with, get on stage, Joe, and show the people that you have an ability to perform. But by not getting on the primary stage against his fellow Republican competitors, he gives ammunition to Camp Biden for when he says, hey, Joe, you need to get on stage and debate Donald Trump. Joe Biden can say, well, you didn't debate your Republican competitors. You didn't feel the need to do that. So obviously, I'm not going to debate you. You're handing him a little bit of a victory, in my opinion. He needs to be out there. He needs to convince those individuals that might be on the fence with regard to the general election that he's the only man to repair the damage that Joe Biden has caused over the last 4 years. The Democrats and their minions in the mainstream media have created a dynamic by which Donald Trump cannot lose the primary, but that is not their goal. Their goal is to prevent him from being able to win the general. And the future of this country hinges on the ability for Donald Trump to swing those 15% points or thereabouts that he needs from primary to general to win. He either has to motivate his people more so than the Biden camp, or he needs to swing some of those middle-of-the-roaders that don't pay a lot of attention to politics in the same fashion that we do. That is a political reality. I'm not suggesting that I would want it that way. I don't want it to be so. I wish Donald Trump won by 80 points over Joe Biden. I would love to see it. I would love to see a landslide, but I'm under no illusions that it will be. And right now, this president has an easy cakewalk through the primary and a very difficult road in the general. And friends, I understand what you say about the 81 million that did or did not vote in the last election. I understand what you say about COVID-19 and how it impacted the election. I understand what you're saying about mail-in balloting and other shenanigans that went on during that election cycle. And we must be vigilant and fight against those same type of shenanigans from going on this cycle around. At the same time, Donald Trump has to break through the media narrative of him. He has to break through the indictments. Believe it or not, for those of us that are galvanized behind Trump, and I'm non-declared right now, and I beg of you not to be declared until 2024, but I know many of you are, and that's fine. And I'm right there with you. I'm predisposed to be with you. But I'm also realistic enough to recognize that Donald Trump has to overcome this narrative that's being created about him yet again, and cut through the clatter of the mainstream media. And one of the ways that he gets to do that is standing on a stage and showing that he's the boss of that room for an hour or an hour and a half. And for him not to do that, in my opinion, is a missed opportunity. He has nothing to fear from Ron DeSantis, nothing to fear from Vivek Ramaswamy, nothing to fear from Tim Scott. Most of these other candidates are going to show fealty to Trump anyway. And Donald Trump is going to be just as much a subject of conversation off the stage as on it. Why wouldn't you take this opportunity for a free hour and a half of advertising? Makes no sense that you wouldn't do that.
Murphy, on September 2nd, what's going to happen when your Bulldogs play Tennessee Martin? You know, right? You already know.
I do.
But you know Kirby's got to go out there and play that game, right? He's got to show you.
And you know what Kirby's not going to do? Kirby's not going to stand up a week before the game and talk about playing South Carolina in 3 weeks. He's not going to talk about playing UAB in a couple of weeks.
Heck no.
He's going to talk about UT and showing respect to Tennessee Martin and showing respect to the players that are coming out of that tunnel onto the field, and we're going to give it all we got. And my concern is, my concern is playing to my standard, right? I mean, he learned that from Lord Saban himself. So that's exactly right. That even though you come out of the chute with a commanding lead, you're showing people why you have that lead and why you're the only choice for the Republican nomination. And by not showing up, I think it demonstrates a certain level of weakness that I didn't think Trump had in him. And I understand many of you that will say to me, you'll get mad at me for saying that, and you'll say, Donald Trump is a master politician. I thought Trump was the anti-politician. The only answer to not showing up is to tell me that, well, this is a political calculation, Matt. If you're 40 points up, you don't show up for a debate. And I understand that, but that's the calculation of a politician, and I thought that was the whole point, that Trump wasn't a politician. That's why it causes me consternation. I know that it's not going to cost him the primary, and I understand that all of us will be over this in the next several weeks. I'm not concerned with getting you. I'm not concerned with getting me. I'm concerned with getting that 15% that we have to get between the primary and the general in order to secure the future of this country. Considering the future, I'm going to do this, and we'll talk about the future of this radio program with David and Mike and the rest of you coming up in a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Safe House. You know I've talked about Safe House for some time now, and I enjoy reminding you how important it is to secure those things that protect you and your family. We're talking about your guns. They've got more gun safes than I could probably count during the entirety of my show. I've put the number at about 600, but they get more in every day, and they have some coming out every day, so that number fluctuates from time to time. As a matter of fact, Mark was telling me he had yet another shipment of Browning safes. Yet another shipment of Fort Knox coming into his warehouse as we speak. I mean, and that means values galore at Nashville Safe House. Nashville Safe House is the one and only place that I would recommend you buy a safe. They're going to have the lowest price points around. They've got rebates galore. Plus, they actually charge you for delivery of your safe. Now, I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek because everybody charges you for delivery. Mark and his team, they clearly denote what that delivery charge was. They don't just add it to the cost of the safe like some of the other guys around. Go by on 4th Avenue South and see the incredible selection of safes and vault doors for yourself, or look online at NashvilleSafehouse.com. The finest selection, not just in the Southeast, not just in America, but in the world, is right here in Nashville at Nashville Safe House. NashvilleSafehouse.com.
Special session on public safety gaveling in today at 4 o'clock. A pair of missing children reunited back with their mother, and border chaos over there in Texas. That and more coming up. 2:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Take it back, Maury. Is this a ba? I want to say this is a ba. I'm just proud of you not popping on Dancing Queen and be done with it.
You know? I almost did just because it's so stereotypical, but I asked Bell specifically. I was like, "What song would you want to hear on the air for your birthday?" And this is the hook that he wanted to hear, so I thought I'd bring it up.
So you woke him up?
Yeah, I poked the bear, and he answered. I also
wait, hold on. This is the song he picked?
Hold on, let it come to the chorus again here.
He specifically asked for this song?
Yeah.
Okay, let's listen to the chorus, and then I'll read all the super text of people calling me stupid. Hold on. Much like Joe Biden, the woman singing this song does not know English. Y'all know that, right? It always fascinated me, the people that sing in English that don't understand English. Like, I think Scorpion was that way, right? I want to say Scorpion, they didn't know any English. And I don't believe that any members of ABBA speak. Maybe they do. Bell will know, and he will certainly text me if I am wrong.
Absolutely. I also had some callers call in with some information.
About?
How to pronounce ABBA.
Are you digging in on ABBA?
I am. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, because
pulling my guns.
Because you had a couple of people, randos, call you.
Had it there, but I also looked it up on the good old Googles.
And what does the Google machine say? Because if it's on the internet,
it has to be true,
right? The Google machine says it's ABBA.
No, actually, it's OBA. We've all been saying it wrong.
E got mad at me last night. We were doing something unrelated to this conversation, and she was getting mad at me because I was looking things up. She said that well, I won't tell you exactly what we were doing, but she was telling me that the B, in order for it to be official, and Bell K, if you're listening, tell me if this is correct or not, one of the B's has to be backwards.
Yes.
In order for it to be official.
Yeah, that's the main logo. It's I think it's the backwards B, regular, and then...
Because they're kind of back-to-back.
Yeah.
You know, they're facing one another, or back-to-back to one another. All right, let's get to all of the super texters, Trump supporters, telling me that I am a moron. Brent, by the way, says, #Team Mason. You go, Brent. 5267, I agree with you, Matt, that Trump should debate. There's approximately 8 million new voters by 2024. I think it really extends beyond Donald Trump. If the least that a political candidate can do for me, outside of raising money and generating enough cash to buy ads and do all of these types of things, I have an expectation that I will have an opportunity to see said candidate on a debate stage and see them formulate ideas in real time and push back against mischaracterizations of themselves or their ideas. Does he not have a gag order from the judge? What if he's put in a position and says something and then gets thrown in jail or can't answer and looks bad? I don't think that there's anything that Donald Trump could say outside of talking about intimate details of the case. I don't think there's anything that he can necessarily say that would be in any sort of violation of any gag order. And I don't know that there's anything politically that could present a real and present danger for Donald Trump. 5201 says, I'm telling you, he knows what he's doing. Trump rarely makes mistakes when it comes to publicity. Okay, you know what? We can agree to disagree. I think that it's not a matter of getting me or getting you. It's not a matter of getting 40% of the country. It's a matter of getting over 50% plus one in the United States in the 50 separate states. And then there's Matt, you're wrong. Biden is already not debating his Democrat competition. I understand that Joe Biden, as the incumbent president, has no interest to debate RFK Jr. Joe Biden will be expected to debate in the general election. My point was that he would use Trump's non-attendance in the Republican debates in order to justify his non-attendance in the general election debates. And then Bob says, Trump does not need to attend the debate. Your argument is shallow, if not downright stupid. Well, it's just a difference of opinion. Opinions are like elbows, Bob. Everybody's got a couple of them. Unless you're one-armed and then you only have one. 615-737-9986. It's Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
.232, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 96 degrees in Middle Tennessee right now. Well, specifically Nashville, portions of Middle Tennessee, the majority of the mid-state in a heat advisory until 8 p.m. Full weather forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Music City, state lawmakers convening Governor Lee's special session on public safety to work on legislation that expands mental health resources, school safety, and stricter penalties for violent crimes. But Republican leadership vowed not to consider anything restricting someone's access to firearms, including Governor Lee's proposed enhanced order of protection when a court rules someone is a threat to themselves or the public. Well, Channel 4 says that this morning outside of the state capitol building, there were members of the Proud Boys group that were praying together. They had a flag reading, quote, Smashville Proud Boys FAF, while allegedly holding up a gesture regularly linked to white supremacy. The special session on public safety will last a minimum of 3 days. They gavel in at 4 o'clock today. And a missing infant, twins believed to have been abducted over the weekend in the Detroit area, are now back with their mother, Sherry Preston.
The 2-week-old baby boys had been dropped off by their mother at a hotel room where 2 friends were staying. She says when she returned, they were gone. Hours later, Police Chief James White says the infants were left unharmed at a Detroit police station.
They were safely brought inside the precinct, made contact with an officer on the desk. As you can imagine, the entire precinct was on high alert.
The twins were taken to a hospital, then reunited with their mother. They're both in good condition. Police are still investigating the apparent abduction.
A federal judge will hear arguments tomorrow related to the floating barrier deployed to the Rio Grande to prevent illegal entries from Mexico. The Justice Department has filed suit demanding that the buoys be taken out of the river.
This is Jim Ryan in Dallas. Despite DOJ concerns about the legality of the barrier, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has defended its use, blaming the Biden administration for the people, drugs, and money smuggled across the Rio Grande and into the U.S. Today, Abbott is hosting like-minded Republican governors from Iowa, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and South Dakota for a tour of the river and a first-hand look at the buoys.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Defense Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm based in Middle Tennessee. Defense Systems has clients including schools, corporations, healthcare facilities, law firms, manufacturing facilities, corporate headquarters, entertainment venues, country music tours, and much more. Brink Fiddler started Defense Systems with a simple premise. He wants to make America and Tennessee safer in regards to how we treat our businesses, how we treat our employees. They can help you with active shooter response training, workplace violence prevention. They do site surveys and threat assessment, security improvement consultation, emergency and intruder action plans, and much more, all customized for your facility. In other words, if you own a business, if you're a decision maker at a school or at another gathering place where people come, I encourage you to contact Brink Fiddler and find out what he can do for you to make your business, to make your location safer as a result of his consultation. Hope is not a plan, friends. We live in a dangerously developing world. It's time to get trained with Defense Systems. Call Defense Systems today at 615-236-6484, 236-6484, or defensesystems.com, defensesystems.com. The Matt Murphy Show. That's right. We are plus-sized ableists here on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Also, if you're listening on one channel, you can't hear this because it's only in the left channel. If you've only got right channel on, you got nothing in your left channel. Now, there you go. It kicks in there. Love what they did with the sound.
It's just a tease.
Okay, so someone wants to know what ABBA song you played, and I didn't recognize it, so I couldn't tell them. Is it Lyric Line? I don't know.
No, hold on. Here, let me pull it up again.
You don't know either. That's okay. It's all right. At least I'm not calling them Aba.
Oba?
Aba. By the way, Maury, don't go anywhere. I have a question for you as asked by the audience. I'm not going to give you the business over this. I heard out of the corner of my ear this news story. What are we talking about? Downtown, Legislative Plaza, racist. What are we doing? Racist signs. Is this the okay thing?
Yes.
Is that what you're reporting on?
Yeah.
Are we honestly as a society going to allow minute groups of individuals to take over symbology that has widely been used over the course of human history by people like Barack Obama? I'm not fussing at you, Mac, but I can point to you hundreds of photographs of Barack Obama and Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton and Joe Biden using the OK sign. And I'm just wondering if that's where we're at, where is that sign impermissible now? I guess I'm just really asking more than anything, because I thought it was okay to use the OK. I guess it's not okay to use the OK if we know you're not okay. If I decide that you're not okay and you use the OK is confirmation that you're A-OK with racism. Hmm?
You got to feel it out. See how the person's personality is before.
Is
you
it
can
all
make that
about?
jump.
See, I stopped using the OK thing when these idiot frat boys were doing the punch thing. Y'all remember that?
Wait, what do you mean?
Where they would do the little circle and.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, I got that all through high school.
You never did that with it. You never that thing where you
put it on your knee like that.
Yeah, you got to do it below the waist, and if somebody looks at it, you punch them.
Yeah.
Oh, you still do that?
I think it's great.
Well, you better watch out.
You're right.
The newsman earlier said that's racist.
No, that's not what I said. I can tell you what I said if you want to go through that. But.
What did you say?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You said you weren't fussing at me, and there's nothing to be fussing at me about. I just report the news over here. So they held a flag reading Smashville Proud Boys, FAF, while allegedly holding up a gesture regularly linked to white supremacy.
By whom?
Well, I mean, we could pull up.
Who links that gesture to white supremacy?
I mean, would you like me to go just search up the hand gesture and look through the history?
No. I'm
just like, this is not the first time you've heard of this hand gesture being linked to this.
Right.
Of course.
Leftists conveniently link the hand gesture to white supremacy when it benefits them. They've never once linked the gesture to white supremacy when it came to Barack Obama. They've never once linked the gesture. I hesitate to grant the political left the victory of they get to decide when something is white supremacist and when something is not white supremacist. And so they'll happily tell you that anytime one of their people uses the OK gesture, they're just using it as an OK gesture. And they get to decide arbitrarily when someone is using it as a white supremacist. I'm not even suggesting that these minor good-for-nothing groups use this thing for their own purposes. They potentially could. So that's where I'm saying that I get it. But I don't understand for the life of me why we allow as a society minor portions of the population, non-consequential portions of the population to dictate for us what we're allowed to say or what we're not allowed to say. I don't know. It's boggling. It's boggling to me. What was the song, by the way? Did you get it? Did you tell me?
No, I did not tell you, but I got it up here. I just wanted to make sure I get the title right so I didn't mess it up for Bell.
Uh-huh.
It's No Doubt About It by ABBA. Or ABBA. Or Oba.
Oh, my God.
It's at 3:00. Can Brian start early? There have been suggestions of things already descending into a little bit of chaos, but I don't expect that there will be chaos by the time the special session convenes at 4:00. Already we're seeing just a mass of humanity down in advance of the 4:00 opening of the Tennessee special session of the General Assembly. The House Select Committee on Rules has now put forth potential guidelines for the special session, which is happening today. I want to read you some of the guidelines, and I think some of them will please you. Hat tip to Pamela Furr for forwarding these to me. It's a normal process by which The House Select Committee on Rules is in place to help govern the daily order of business in the House and its committees. The entire House of Representatives is going to vote on which of the rules put forth by the committee to adopt during this special session. The House will consider these rules in the House chamber at 4 p.m. today. Here are some of the proposed rules. Tell me if this does not put a smile on your face, because some of these you'll recognize from the end of the regular session earlier this year. Rule number 2 prohibits members and staff from using electronic devices that impair decorum and prohibits audio or visual recording, live streaming, or broadcasting in any meeting of the House, its committee, subcommittee, or joint conventions. No more recording on the floor of the House. Rule number 4 prohibits voice or noise amplification devices. Oh, let me check with my newsman or Mason. Would you consider a bullhorn to be a noise amplification device?
I mean, I believe that's typically what it's used for.
Voice amplification, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Prohibits voice or noise amplification devices, flags, signs, or banners. Rule number 18. When a member is recognized and goes off topic, they will forfeit their remaining time. If the member is called to order by the Speaker a second time on the same day, and it is sustained by the House, that member will not be recognized for the remainder of that day. The member will not be recognized for 3 legislative days on a third offense. The member will not be recognized for the remainder of the session for a fourth offense. Offending members will still be allowed to vote.
Wait, what if they're holding the talking stick, though? They have the talking stick. They must be able to talk.
I thought it was the conch. Was it not the conch?
The talking conch.
Piggy's got the conch! Piggy's got the conch! That's a vague reference lost on many of you, but those of you who have it, you're laughing. Rule number 21 gives a bill sponsor 2 minutes to respond to a member whose time has expired. Rule number 35 adds voice or noise amplification devices to the no props rule. Rule number 60 sets the amendment filing deadline for the floor to at least 4 hours prior to the start of session in order to be considered. Rule 65 names the standing committees for the extraordinary session and removes designees from the Government Operations Committee. And rule number 83 adds a new section, establishes an ad hoc committee composed of the Speaker Pro Tem and 2 leaders and the caucus chairs to make disciplinary recommendations to the Speaker of the House when a member is ruled out of order in committee for impugning the reputation of another member. Oh, and this new rule number 86. If a member impugns the reputation of another member of the House, the member may be called to order by any other member. The House will decide the case without debate. First offense, the member will not be able to proceed with remarks. Second, no recognition for 3 days. Third, no recognition for 6 days. Fourth, no recognition for the remainder of the session. Some new rules set forth by the House of Representatives to be considered in the special extraordinary session of the General Assembly to start today at 4 o'clock. It is 2:49. We'll find out what Brian Wilson's talking about next on The Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Efficient heating and cooling. Boy, oh boy, I told you. Last week I was talking about Jeff Eddy and efficient heating and cooling, and what did I say? I said, friends, it's cooler now. I mean, we're getting in the mid-80s, but it's going to get hotter again before the summertime is over. I knew it. You knew it. We all knew it. I didn't say anything special, but now we're experiencing it. And that AC is running hard, boy. It is making itself known. And if you have a problem with your AC, that's probably making itself known as well. Maybe you've got it set on 72 and it's only running at 76. Whatever the issue might be, you need to call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Don't be sweaty. Call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. He can help. They bring a crew out. You can trust that they're going to analyze your system, go over it from tip to stern, and they'll make you a recommendation either to repair that unit or, if it's time, and sometimes it will be, it's time to replace. And when you are replacing, free financing on your next unit, ask about that. Plus, a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric, an elite pro partner with the Ream. EfficientHVAC.net, EfficientHVAC.net, or call 615-784-4424. In the summertime, don't be sweaty. Call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Cleanup from a tropical storm underway in Southern California, gun deaths in the United States, wildfires in Washington, and a missing teenager in Tennessee. Those stories and more at 3 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Young McMaury, I have a question for you and Mason. So Freddie O'Connell was slated to be on our show at 2 o'clock Friday. Freddie O'Connell has now announced that he's tested positive for COVID-19, and he will be quarantined until Thursday.
Come on.
So what am I supposed to do with that?
So he's quarantined till Thursday, but not Friday.
But we're out at Bold Patriot Brewing. I need.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I need the sage wisdom of Brian Wilson on this one. I don't know. I think they'll probably cancel, right?
Yeah, probably.
Probably so. Brian Wilson is joining us. I don't mean to steal your thunder, Mr. Wilson, but I just saw the number laid out by the Fulton County DA on bond for Donald Trump. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't seen it.
They couldn't just give the man personal recognizance, right? They're $200,000 bond in Fulton County.
That's pocket change for Donald Trump, but still, come on.
Dog and pony shows. Speaking of dog and pony shows, I imagine you'll be keeping a watchful eye over at the Tennessee General Assembly in the old special session.
To some degree, today is the organization day, and I am interested to see, about the rules that you were talking about, and I've just gotten word that apparently they've tightened up security around there so that there won't be a lot of people in the rotunda, there won't be a lot of people in the galleries, and I think all that's good and fine. But my take on this thing is we ought not be having this stupid special session to begin with. And I think that, we would do well served to just have taking this up in January. It is always the instinct of government, it seems to me, after a tragedy, and it was a tragedy, don't get me wrong. Well, we're government and we must do something. Well, sometimes having information might help you make a better decision. Taking a little time to absorb, the details of what has happened and thinking about them more deeply. I just think when you rush legislation because you feel like you got to be doing something, it generally does not lead to a lot of great legislation.
Well, and here's my take on it, and I have a little consternation about it, but anything that they could have done that would have required an extraordinary session, they're unable to do because they don't have the information to do it. So you're left with doing a lot of things that could be done in the regular session. I mean, it's kind of just what you said. So
I know. Now, by the way, let me get a couple of things in here very quickly because I hear the music.
Yep.
Coming up at 3:05, Ricky Skaggs.
All right.
Who's going to be talking about the Oliver Anthony phenomenon. And then at 4:05 this afternoon, Senator Bill Hagerty will be joining us. We are waiting to hear back a little bit later in the show from John Rich, who also wants to talk about this Oliver Anthony phenomenon and what it means writ large. So it's an action-packed show, and we'll keep an eye on the special session.
There he is, Brian Wilson, coming up in mere moments on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll talk to you again at high noon tomorrow. Until then, have a great afternoon, folks. So long.